Hello everyone and welcome to Encounters USA. We are in the middle of our Harstine Island research project. We have done a number of Bigfoot reporting organization reports where we go over to Harstine Island and actually check out the area where the sighting or the experience happened. Today we're going over to investigate exciting sighting number 75933, and in this sighting a woman and her husband hear some mysterious owl sounds while they're out on a walk. So let's take a look at that sighting.
On Sunday, May 28th, 2023, at around 7 a.m., myself, my husband, and my brother went for a nature walk near his parents' property. We found an old logging road near the south end of the island in the center. Manka Lumber owns pretty much the entire center of the island, so it's all evergreen tree farmland. Half of this 89-acre parcel was clear-cut in about 2015, so it is new growth shrubbery. The other half is old-growth evergreen forest with some wetland mixed in. At the entrance of the logging road is an orange locked gate indicating it is a logging road. The public isn't welcome to drive through it, but it is open to walk through. We stopped for a few minutes and took in the view. That is when we first heard the owls. Which, first there was just one coming from maybe a mile or so out into the new growth forest. At first I thought it was an owl, which was weird because it was a little late early to hear an owl considering it was well into the morning and the sun was all the way up by this point. As we continued on our path, we found more of those bundles of twigs with really old purple rubber bands around them. And as the land fully evened out, there was a sort of marsh on our right side, and the trees were broken at really odd, seemingly intervals that did not appear natural at all. And the path began to get narrower because the trees began to overhang the whole path as we got further and further away from the new growth forest and started to enter the old growth land, and were fully surrounded by large evergreen trees. And the sun was beginning to be hidden by the cover of the treetops. We found another small clearing on the left side, the road except this one, you had to walk through a narrow trail to get to. And the oddly shaped broken branches were there again, seemingly placed on purpose in various arrangements surrounding the circle opening in the forest. None of us went on that trail to the clearing. This is when we decided to turn back and start heading back toward the car. The whole time we were on the path, the owl sounds never stopped. My husband stopped us every few minutes to listen as we were continuing down the path. He noticed that the owl sounds weren't coming from above us as if they were in the trees like an owl would do. They were coming from ground level. At one point, we heard what sounded like muffled voices, as if someone were in the trees but had their mouth covered and couldn't speak, followed by very loud and low-pitched growl that was maybe 20 feet into the old growth forest near us. A feeling of dread kind of surrounded us at this point, but it didn't feel like anything wanted to hurt us per se. More like just letting us know we were not welcome there and they were watching us intently. As soon as we started our descent down the road and could finally see the car parked at the entrance behind the locked gate, the owl sounds finally ceased. But the feeling of dread and that we were not welcome did not dissipate until we were driving down the road and finally got back to my husband's parents' property a few miles down the road. We also noticed broken branches that were placed in unnatural configurations. We saw an abandoned shoe and glasses, bundles of twigs wrapped in purple rubber bands. The owl sounds were not from owls. They were coming from the ground level and were much deeper than that of an owl. They seemed like they were communicating with each other across the forest. They did not want us there. We heard a muffled voice, like someone had their hand over someone's mouth so they couldn't speak.
Because according to the story, where this happened was in a place where there were a lot of trees on the side of the road. Right now, I am parked outside of one of these gates here. This is logged land, and what I'm doing is I'm looking for this Bigfoot site, or it's an area where they had owl sounds that I used in my Missing 911 movie of Lake Cushman and the Staircase Trail. So right now I am just looking. I'm not sure exactly where the site is that these guys were at. So there's the intersection over here behind me. That's the intersection they talk about in the sighting. And this is the first gate that's near it. And they say there's shotgun shells all over the place. So I'm going to take a look real quick and see if there's anything here. And then if not, we'll have to move on down the road. And then I had this interesting experience. Now, you're not going to believe this. No, not that. Not that. Well, we're not going to hear it now, but I just heard what I think were vocalizations, so I guess we're going to keep moving down the road. And so this first area that I looked at did not appear to be that location at all. And so it was time to move on down the road and see if there was another likely location. But I needed to go down the road and see if there was another locked gate where I could find the telltale shotgun shells, rubber bands, and sticks wrapped with rubber bands. So I went to the next site or potential site, and I made my way around, and I started to realize this did have a lot more potential because it did have a little bit of the matching terrain. For one, there was a hill they talked about walking on, and they also said that there was something in the forest that made them feel creepy, but they couldn't see what it was. So I needed a place where there was forest on the side of the road, and certainly I found plenty of that. So with this likely location, I decided to send up the drone and see if I could scout how far these people may have gone, or with any luck, maybe there would be something in the area remaining that might have made those owl sounds. So up the drone went and had a look around. Now, unfortunately, there was not much to either confirm or disprove this location But as far as I'm concerned, unless I can find something more likely, I think this is probably it. So as far as 75933 goes, I believe this is the location where they heard the owls. Now I want to tell you why the owl story is so interesting to me. So back to the studio. Oh boy, that was an exciting sighting, wasn't it? Now, I actually have my own experience from that. If you watch my Missing 911 movie, you'll see that I was Bigfoot calling out in the Lake Cushman area near the Staircase Trail. And I was doing these Bigfoot calls when out of the blue, it's completely quiet, it's completely dark, and you hear this cuckoo just one time, and then that's the end of it. And then in the movie, I have Rich Germeau in the next scene goes on in another interview to explain what these owls or owls actually are and what those sounds actually mean. So how exciting is that? All right, so we have just a couple of more Harstine Island adventures that we're going to be going on. And I'll tell you right now, the next one you're going to be seeing is the first part of a story where I actually, 2 weeks ago when I was doing my investigations, I put up trail cameras on Harstine Island, and then the atmospheric river hit, and I couldn't get back to get my trail cameras. So we're going to be watching a couple of stories about that coming up very soon. But first I have to go over and find my trail cameras. You're going to want to stay tuned for all that excitement. And just remember what we always say at Encounters USA. If you're out looking for aliens, Bigfoot, or Dogman, if you're out putting up trail cameras on Harstine Island, or if you're hanging out with members of the Democrat Party, always watch your back.